Welcome to O.P.O.P, the podcast, Operation Protect Our Peace.
I'm Stacey.
I'm Sarah.
Tune into O.P.O.P as we expose all the hard stuff to get to the sweet stuff.
You'll get the truth, plot twists, and the pivots you need to protect your peace.
Life hits hard,
but with God, O.P.O.P hits harder.
Hey, Joy Stealers.
We're coming for you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to O.P.O.P, the podcast, Operation Protect Our Peace. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Stacey.
And this is going to be Stacey's part 2 of her testimony. Stacey, take it away.
All right. Well, hi, listeners. And I would encourage you to go back to part 1 of my story if you haven't listened to that yet, just because I called it the setup so that listeners would understand my heart behind why I'm doing this and sharing difficult times in my life. And so if you're just tuning in, go back and listen to that of what it is and what it isn't. I want to start off today by reminding you that one of the biggest reasons I'm here is to put a smile on your face and remind you of who you truly are in the hardships. So I decided to try my best to live out the promises of God through Psalms 118:24. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So gratitude began taking a stand over anything that I faced. So today, I hope that everyone takes what they like from my story and leaves the rest. That is something big that I learned through the program of Al-Anon, which I also mentioned a little bit in part 1. But as a quick reference, it's the program that when you have been involved with someone who's dealing with alcoholism, it's Al-Anon is for the loved ones who are trying to get through that. And that is one of the best things that I learned. It was take what you like here and leave the rest. So whatever resonates with you, because not every lesson is going to be for everyone. And also in part of my story, it's heavy things. And so there may be thoughts, opinions, and things, but I'm just going to deliver my story the way it happened to me. And so, yeah, that's a big one. Take what you like, leave the rest. Okay, part 2 of my story will include high school, college, beliefs on drinking, sex, and dating, and then marriages, plural. So today, as I start to share my story, it is with the things that I just mentioned in mind with part 1. Also, listener discretion advised, because I'm going to be talking about some heavy things that may not be for your little ones at this point, but possibly helpful for them later in life. This is for teenagers on up, because they're getting confronted with the things I'll address as we speak already. My goal is to have listeners learn and talk to the right people, if any of this resonates with you, about the hard stuff, so that no one ends up vulnerable and talking to unsafe, manipulative people, which is part of what happened to you and I, Sarah. But rather to recognize those behaviors that are unhealthy and to move away from them. I hope to be someone who shows up in the mess for people. So right now, listeners, I hope that you know that my heart is that I'm sharing this so that you know I'm showing up with you, because I know there's people who are going through some really hard things right as we speak. And if you know anyone who is, please share this with them. But people did this for me. Many people in my life showed up for me, stayed by my side, and I will never forget those people. Thank you. You know who you are. And now I'm paying it forward, and I want to pass it forward, and I know you want the same, and that's a big reason why we're here. So let me pick up where I left off, talking about my incredible childhood with God, great family, friends, who I was then, and more of the journey of how I got to be who I am now. So through high school, I never partied. I enjoyed getting to know a lot of people, including lots of people. I loved playing sports. My sports were softball, swim team, and volleyball. I was always very open with my faith. I enjoyed inviting people to come to church with me, because to me, I genuinely wanted them to have what I had. And I would say that the hardest things from junior high through high school that I faced, that, like loss or hardship, was my grandma passed away in 8th grade suddenly. And that was my first time dealing with death. And also a friend, a little young friend, 8-year-old that I met, she passed away two years after I met her from a rare flu occasion. And that was my first time dealing with death of a child. And some pretty cool things later in other episodes where her older sister and I are still friends to this day. And we always say she gave us each other, but she plays a big part in some of the truths I found out to help me through my first divorce. So even though she's 10 years younger. So the next topic is drinking. So speaking of partying, I grew up in a family where no one drank. Not either side of my immediate family that I knew of anyways at the time. And I loved it. I think that it set me up to be exactly who I am without alcohol. And so to this day, I've never seen either one of my parents have a drink. And I am grateful for that. Yet our house was the party house. Like it was the place to be for all my friends. And every friend, teen group was always welcome at our house. My parents provided food, games, awesome yard to be outside, trampoline, bonfire, above ground pool, staying up late, hanging out with us. But they didn't hang out with us because they wanted to act like a kid or try to be cool. They actually were brilliant, in my opinion, to want to genuinely hang out with us and get to know our friends. And my friends all loved my parents. They still do. And they let us be kids. They always raised us to spurred us and our friends on to reach our best potential and encouraged us. They're just always so uplifting. And I know that's why so many love being around them still. But our friends and us kids also knew to respect them and the rules of our home, meaning, and I don't mean harsh rules, I mean kindness. And they knew we love God. And that again was them living out being a great example. So it always stuck out to me that my parents, at a very young age for us, although of course we needed guidance, we needed reprimanded here and there, but they taught us at a very young age that we are your earthly parents, but God is always there for you. And you need to start learning now that you're responsible, you and him. I mean, it's you and him. We're here to love you and guide you as best we can, but we're still human. And ultimately, you need to start learning now that it's you and the life you want to live, the character you want to have, what you say you're responsible for, what you do you're responsible for, how we talk, what we watch, how we live. And it helped us learn to make good choices at a young age and to avoid some bad ones. And not only did this guide each of us to not party or get in trouble, but we didn't even want to. We were allowed to have so much fun that we didn't see the point or have a need for it, or other substances for that matter. We could be loud, make messes, be creative, have sleepovers, go to amusement parks every weekend, play in the rain, get super dirty, have food fights. My parents were right there with us. We could get on the boat, be crazy, be yourself, and stay up super late. And they were right there with us always. So there was never a need to have to go out and find this fulfillment of all the things we're not allowed to do, So
That's good.
I found that so healthy. So my parents did a very good job at helping us be secure. What that did by giving us freedom, but also doing it in such a healthy way, it actually planted security in us. But it was also a fun, safe place. So I'm very grateful for that. Through high school and college, I often got made fun of or a little picked on for not drinking. And I was the goody-goody, and I always hated that. But then I was like, I'm also good with it. I am also comfortable with who I am. I like who I am. And I didn't really take it personal. People usually did it in a fun-loving kind of way, even though they kind of meant it. That I was okay not wavering on that and also my faith. But I also, what was really prevalent was that I had really good friends who did it with me. Not because we decided, let's be different. It's just that is the blessing I had. So friends really have an impact, and having good friends, even just one good friend who is I'm with you on this. And it's just a way of life. And so you don't feel on an island. That just something that could take away from our listeners, that be a friend and try to have a friend. So one thing about, drinking and alcohol, drugs, all the things. My dad's perspective was always kind of, hey, he's really funny, got a good sense of humor. He'd say, hey, you know how you never become an alcoholic? You don't drink. Hey, you know how you don't become a druggie? Don't do drugs. It's not that hard. But he would get serious then and go, but no, really, I mean that, because you never know which person is going to have addictive personality, and one time is too much for some people, whereas some people, one time is not a problem, or occasionally is not a problem for some people. For some people, it does them in. And so his motto was always, I think I would just rather help people out who do struggle with it, so I'm not going to do it. And also, I don't want to be the one who has a problem, so I'm just going to play it safe and not do it. My mom always said, look, I knew you guys would learn plenty of hard lessons in life just because life will do that. So I decided I will try to protect you guys as best I can by giving you a place at home that was like Mayberry as much as possible. And if you don't know Mayberry, it's the Andy Griffith Show, which is just good, down-to-earth, wholesome family life and happy life. And, I feel they succeeded at this beautifully. So I appreciate their efforts and their gift in that. The flip side to that in my life was, in a way, I lean personally towards being a perfectionist. I didn't realize it then. As I got older, I realized, that is kind of my tendency, but it's not towards things and, that has to be right here and this has to be like that and, that's wrong if you do it this way. It's not, I'm easygoing when it comes to that. But when I held myself to certain standards, I was hardest on myself. So when it came to drinking, I couldn't fathom how people could get wasted and not care about what happened or what they did or what they said or where they ended up or who they ended up with or hurting themselves or someone else. I live carefree in many ways, but that is not one of them. I never wanted to feel scared or sick or out of control. And so some of that was fear-based, but I do think there is a healthy fear that helps us have some common sense, which can be lacking these days. So I am grateful for that. Like, I was the kid, I've always been easily impacted. So when the DARE team came to school, like DARE to keep a kid off drugs, they smoked a cigarette in the 2-liter bottle, one cigarette, and it turned black. The cotton balls in the bottom turned black from one. That was all I ever needed to see. I never smoked, never wanted to. I was like, you did it for me. It worked for me. Good job. Never doing that. Yeah. But that's how I lived. And even as an adult now, I protect what I watch, especially what I watch and what I listen to. Like, news is really not for me because there's so much that is negative, and so I have to find ways to stay in the loop but not let it affect my peace. And even movies, I don't watch rated R. I don't watch rated R or above, or and even PG-13 is sometimes like, I can't. And there's so many who are like, are you kidding me? You're such a lightweight. And my mom, we used to joke with her because she would click her teeth at cussing in movies or things like that. And we would be like, oh, Mom, really? But I secretly always appreciated it because I was easily scared and I was impacted by those things. I could never get it out of my head, out of my mind. So I learned that at a young age that I needed to watch that in my life. And I know that isn't for everyone. Not everyone is built the same. And some people, it doesn't impact that way. So it's not from a judgy place. It's just I learned that about myself. And the takeaway is to really, our listeners, learn yourself. Learn what is good for you and what isn't, and be solid on that starting from a really young age, and help your kids learn about themselves at a really young age so they start learning what is good for them, what isn't, and that certain things really need to be cut out. So, but for me, in my house, meaning my temple, who I am, I have to protect it in that way. And that might be something that people could learn from if they're built like me or you. And, for me, I also just don't want to spend time that way. So I like to be outside riding, dancing, going on adventures, taking a bath, riding, I think I said that, or protecting my peace. All those things are feeding my soul, not taking from it. So I had to start really setting those boundaries as an adult, especially once you hear the rest of my story, you'll understand why I want goodness around me, why I want to protect who is around me, what is around me, because my real life story is movie-like in a bad way as an adult. Not all of it, but a lot. So there is such a thing as healthy fear, as I mentioned, and this kept me from a lot of bad stuff going through high school and college. And what was unhealthy, though, about that fear was that I cared too much about what people thought of me. So I struggled more with what would people think of me if I do drink or even have a drink. What would people think? Or because I'm hard on myself, I've always learned this isn't good. So I would be hardest on myself, really. And what would I think of me if I did these things? Fill in the blank. So I was definitely too scared. But I could have used someone to talk openly to me about these things. And this is going to be a theme you hear in my story, that how talking and speaking up helps so much. And really the opposite is encouraged, to be quieted and to, not only women, but a lot of times it can be that where it's, hey, pipe down or brush it under the rug and those types of things. But really starting at a young age, these things really, now I have a passion to talk about them because I needed it and I didn't know it. So even though it would have been uncomfortable for me as a kid, it could have helped me learn quicker about some things. So fortunately, I do not have an addictive personality. But as an adult, these things never crossed my mind. Or as a kid, these things never crossed my mind to ask these questions. Well, but what if things do go differently than I had planned as a child? What if they don't go the way I thought they were going to go? I never really asked that. And here's the thing. What we can all agree on is that alcohol isn't good for anyone. But I thought as a young person that if anyone who drank was so-called quote unquote bad, I don't know. I think I just molded that thought into that. But there is a way, a balanced way to have a drink and do it responsibly and have it safely. And that does not make people bad. But no one really discussed that. And so, but because we can also agree that what also isn't good for us is donuts, candy, sugar, ice cream, fried foods, chips, cookies, not getting sleep, overworking, not exercising, you name it, any bad habit you could fill in the blank. But there are some people, a lot of people who would bash someone for a certain behavior, but then there's selective absolutes for others where I would never do that. But this I'm fine with in my own life. So all I'm saying is the takeaway could be that we could all just focus on more balance in our lives and make sure that we're not judging someone for having a glass of wine or a beer as a treat or a celebration safely and responsibly. That doesn't make someone a bad person, yet it's way more socially acceptable to go get donuts and ice cream, and sugar is just as addictive. But there's those things that, oh, okay, so that's okay to talk about, but then other things aren't. That's why I'm speaking up. So those are some valuable lessons that I learned as an adult and can now vocalize them and communicate what I learned. And including accepting what balance means for one person, meaning me. Just because it's different for another person doesn't make my ways good and theirs bad, because they're built different. So what is balanced and consistent for you may not be for me, But if we could all just check in more with ourselves, then we could find a lot more less judgment on others, first of all. That would be great. But in a later episode, we'll get into more details of how balance and consistency are my standards and regular check-ins with that, because it's a lifelong thing. I learned what is best for me as an adult and what I will do and what I won't do. And it's important to me to start helping kids at a young age so that they come full circle to make their own healthy choices, not out of fear or control, which is a great lead into the next topic, sex. Because my childhood was so great, I had a feeling that my adulthood would track exactly the same. I thought, oh, perfect. So I made good decisions, quote unquote, based on what I was taught and how I interpreted right and wrong, including biblically what I was taught and what I learned, but also sometimes making my own definitions of what that was and getting that wrong. I also only heard growing up relationally, especially at church, the word purity, meaning you stay a virgin until you are married, and then you get married, and then you stay married. And I went with that. So, and I was adamant, like, oh, okay, if that's the way to do it, then of course I'm doing that because I want the best. And if that's what it is to have the best life and the easiest life and the happiest life, then that's what I want to do. And I'll sacrifice now so that I can have this good later. It really came from a good place to do so. But, you know, I thought I'd find the right man and who followed the same. And then we would live happily ever after. But I didn't think about these questions. What if it doesn't go that way? What about people who get molested? What about people who get raped? What if someone raised exactly like me does have sex before marriage? What does that make them? Are they bad? Are some sins worse than others? Why do some get judged so harshly and why are some so overlooked? For example, gossip versus having sex before marriage. Equally the same need of pivoting, you know, turning according to God and what he would have us do. But world says, oh no, one is worse than the other. Mm-hmm. And I think, let me just say this, I think it's a great path to follow. I did follow that path. I did remain a virgin until I was married. And I'm happy that I went that way. And I encourage this path. But more people need to speak up about why. Not just because I told you to without understanding. Mm-hmm. And there'll be much more about that in future episodes. So I know that some decisions have way more consequences than others. But my point is, some things are really important to dive in, talk about, and understand the why you're choosing to do what you're doing, rather than just because someone told you to or you interpreted it, you know, what the Bible said, which is a great thing to follow. I mean, the best thing to follow. But we should have safe places to discuss these questions that arise so that we gain strength in character and we build our faith rather than wavering because we aren't sure what to do. And let's face it, every single teenager and on up, it has raging hormones and is curious. And God made us that way, and it is beautiful. And without the right direction, it can cause so much unnecessary pain and heartache. And decisions have to be in your heart, or else it can become a dangerous place, a place where the wrong people can manipulate you. And that is precisely what happened to me. So I now have a passion for teaching kids and everyone about sex, why the Bible says what it says. And it's not because God is mean or he's just trying to mess with us to create this beautiful, you know, bond between two people and then make it so harsh and so painful. He created it with beauty in mind. But if we had more safe, healthy adults talking to young men, specifically about why is porn affecting you? Why do we need to protect ourselves from it? Not just men, women too. Mm-hmm. It can literally change your brain, and sometimes it doesn't go back. it can ruin your future sex life and your future relationship with your partner. If we talked more openly, they would have a better chance at deciding why they don't want to watch it or why they do not watch it, rather than, well, I'm just over here struggling because I have this urge and I'm curious, but it's wrong. So now I'm just ashamed and full of guilt and I have no one to talk to. And, that would help to bring to light, to talk to it, so that we have less broken relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And also for both girls and boys, women and men, rather than this pressure of fight the feeling, don't do it, purity, remain a virgin, talk about why you save yourself, what it does to your heart, your soul, when you share that with someone else, how it makes it harder to move on if you're just dating and then you break up and you're in the wrong relationship. It does, facts say, it makes it harder to move on because now the risk, the emotional involvement, and then you have the risk of STDs. So we need to talk openly about these things so people know all that they're getting into and not going to talk to the people who are unsafe and that won't talk about all these things that could damage you in the future. That way, you don't have clouded vision when there's red flags in a relationship with someone, because that's what it does. Your heart is involved, love is involved, and now your vision is clouded. And that is the meaning that the Bible has to guard your heart. It isn't meant to be, you better follow every single rule I gave you. It's, no, I want you to be warned that there are some guardrails that can help you live with less pain, even though this world is full of trouble and you will have some. But what if we followed those to help people have a little less of it and learn these lessons sooner rather than later? So it gives backbones to the decisions rather than floundering because you were told to. And next topic, dating. All right, going through high school, junior high, I had a flirty interest in boys, but that's about it. It was mostly, oh, he's cute, and never really dated anyone. I had a boyfriend for a short time, 9th grade, first kiss, moved on. Really just mostly told boys that I just wanted to be friends, and sometimes that was true. Sometimes I was uninterested, and sometimes I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. Most of the time, I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. Plus, I also just sort of wanted to just have fun with friends. I really was kind of just carefree, didn't worry about it. I know now that one of the things that I really struggled with was saying what I needed. Sharing my insecurities or my vulnerabilities. Those things were hard for me, and there's a couple circumstances that really came to light, and I realized if I don't share, people just think, oh, your life is perfect and you're perfect. And that part of that perfectionism, came in because I wasn't perfect. I did have struggles. I did have insecurities, but I just didn't tell anyone but my mom and God. So people thought I could not relate to them, but it was kind of a guard I had up about myself that I wasn't comfortable sharing. So I was, again, like, oh, well, what would they do with it? So I guess it's a trust issue, like, I'm not telling you because what are you going to do with that? And then my secret, but I had to grow in that. But so junior year, I met someone who from church camp. You and I have a special bond with church camp. But I met someone there, great guy, super nice, but we live 45 minutes away and neither one of us could drive yet. So we literally wrote letters back and forth.
Oh, cute.
And that was my first experience with a little bit of trust broken and heartbreak because he ended up kissing another girl. He did tell me about it. It kind of broke my heart, but he apologized. And so I did think that was a noble move. And that was my first experience with that feeling. So I basically went from barely dating to jumping right into long-term, similar to you. Looking back, I would have dated so many people and just gotten better at saying no thank you
Yeah.
and realizing that is not mean, that is not unkind, that is what dating is. So takeaway for listeners and all young people, date a lot. You are not mean, you are not a player. You are figuring out who really is what they say they are and what you like, what you don't like. And that doesn't mean they're all bad people if you don't stay with them. It just means they're not for you.
Yeah.
So back to story. Then I dated someone for 2 years, my senior year. I started in my senior year of high school, and that went into college. I met him in junior high. We were friends. And then right at the end of senior year, we started dating. He is a great guy to this day. And our families were friends. Actually, his dad was the pastor at our church that you heard me speak about in part 1 of my story. They're wonderful. I do think he sort of liked my family the best. And I think he thought at a time he wanted to marry me. I knew it wasn't it. He is a great guy. We broke up, moved on. But yes, literally the preacher's son. And by this time, I was in college, playing college volleyball, community college, and then a 4-year. And, you know, shortly after, I met someone there. And it was truly something my heart had never felt. It felt like true love. But I really didn't know him that long. And we were different. We were raised different. How we thought was different. And the things we did were different. He didn't know at the time where exactly he stood with God, but he was honest about that. And he smoked. And I thought that meant he was the wrong guy for me. So I moved on. And he was the greatest. I actually regret that move on because he pursued me. He challenged me in the way that I thought. He challenged me. He was the most honest person I had ever met in my life because he learned at a very young age exactly who he was. And I experienced, even I thought I was open and vulnerable. It turns out you are that, and I am learning to be that. Mm-hmm. And so he taught me that no matter how vulnerable you need to be it. Say it. Say the things. And sometimes he was brutally honest. But I always admired that about him. But then I considered that must have been the wrong guy. And sadly, that would be the last time that I got honesty in a relationship for the next decade. I let opinions and fear that I was choosing the wrong guy based on what I thought was right, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. I walked straight from that, straight into the fire. Mm. And another takeaway, because I have a great father. My dad is amazing. My grandparents, especially grandpas, I'm just talking about the men for a second. I have awesome women too. But uncles, I had great men around me. So I thought there were many, 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 many. Sure. And side note, there are always angels that have popped up through these times in my life. Those people I just mentioned are angels in my life that I recognize, wow, I found bad apples, but I also believed in the good because of these good men. So shout out to those of you who wonder if you're making an impact in your kids or grandkids or nieces, nephews. Yeah. You are, and keep it up. But I never lost hope because of that, because I had those angels to remind me you'd seen it. There are good people, and there are people who won't treat you badly. Mm-hmm. So it's actually, I figured out, quite the opposite. I thought I was more safe than I was. And the truth is, there are many more people who are not honest, not healthy, and not safe. It's just true. And it's actually very rare, come to find out, to find someone who will be blatantly honest. So I didn't know the signs to look for either. And on that note, we are going to pause and regroup because I'm going to go into the next part. So,
and that concludes Stacey's part 2 of her testimony. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Tune in for part 3, and she will complete the rest of the story.